Welcome back to Open Line, everybody. We are talking with Dr. Alan Brown. He is the author of many books on Southern folklore and Southern ghost lore. And I'm going to read some of the book titles so you get a sense. Haunted Georgia, Haunted Kentucky, Haunted Tennessee, Haunted Texas, Haunted Vicksburg. So Dr. Brown has traveled all over the South collecting ghost stories, actually investigating haunted sites, and really looking into Southern ghost lore and Southern folklore. And again, Dr. Brown's joining us via Zoom. All right, so I just listed some of the books: Georgia, Texas, Vicksburg, Natchez, Ghosts Along the Mississippi. In your opinion, what's the most haunted area, the most haunted state or area, or how? It seems like you really focus on the South, but what's the most haunted area?
Well, if you're talking about the most haunted area in the South, I think what you're referring to is a number of ghost stories that have been produced, of ghost sightings that have been produced by these states. Well, Louisiana, of course, would be close to the top. Georgia, as well. Well, Texas has a lot of them, mostly because Texas is so big.
Right, right.
A lot of them in Texas, too. And I think that the locale does have something to do with the number of ghost stories. The history has a lot to do with it. And this is why I think the states that probably have had the most Civil War battles probably have the most ghost stories. Virginia has a lot of them. And I think that has a lot to do with it. Also, the parts of the South where you have the big plantations. And then you have a lot of ghost stories produced in that era of history.
Is it because of tragedy? Does tragedy generate? Yes. Is that the origin of these things?
Yes, I think it is. I think that in many ways, ghost stories serve as a kind of oral memorial to tragic things that happened in the past, and that people from one generation to the next have told these stories in the hope that these events don't occur again. A good example is a face on the courthouse window of the Pickens County Courthouse in Alabama, where a man named Henry Wells, a black man named Henry Wells, was lynched for burning down a courthouse, and there was no proof that he actually did this. But that story has been told. It happened in 1876. It has been told for many, many years. In fact, there are now 2 memorials standing outside of that courthouse, 2 actual memorials. But that story had been memorialized through the power of the word for many years before that. And I think that is one of the functions of ghost stories, which is why I hope people keep telling them.
It's to deal with tragedy, to help explain tragedy, and I like what you said, memorialize tragedy.
Yes. Yes, well, like they said, those who forget history are doomed to repeat it, and there are things that have happened in the South that we don't ever want to happen again.
Right.
And I think stories like these help to ensure that this won't happen again.
These hauntings that you investigate, and I'm fascinated. It says, in your spare time you do a little ghost hunting. How often is the spirit threatening? In the movies, that seems to be the primary sort of story. The ghost is threatening someone.
Yes.
How often do you find that? And people are, kind of creeped out by some of this. So how often do you see a threatening sort of situation?
Very seldom. Very seldom. People have asked me, can a ghost hurt you? And what my response is, people hurt themselves trying to get away from ghosts. That most ghosts aren't even aware that they're being watched. These are called residual hauntings, where the spiritual energy replays itself like a film loop, and people they'll jump, they'll fall backwards, they'll run away, they'll scream, and it's because this kind of encounter is unexpected. I don't think you can say that a spirit is malignant because it's scaring people. Now that's not to say there aren't some spirits like that, and I have read about those. I've not encountered any. Some of the ghost hunters I interviewed in New England said that those really malicious spirits are actually demons. Well, down here in the Bible Belt, we don't deal with demons. Because if you did, you wouldn't get invited to any of these haunted places. I interviewed a lady in a town in Livingston, Alabama, just this past Monday, who had that kind of experience. Well, a surprising experience. She heard a noise downstairs. She was by herself. Went into the kitchen, and she said this amorphous white shape suddenly materialized in front of her, in front of the refrigerator, 18 inches away from her, and she screamed. She screamed. She was terrified, and it vanished. It dissipated. And she called me up and asked me if that entity was trying to harm her, and I said probably not. And actually, she was the fourth person to live in that house that had experienced the same ghost and described it the same way. When I hear stories like that makes me wonder if there really isn't something to these hauntings that we hear about, because I suspect that lady probably did have a paranormal encounter. I think so.
And so when you're called upon or asked to go look into something like this,
yeah.
What do you do? I mean, is there some equipment that you take with you, a ghost hunter, or is it more just you get a vibe, or how do you go into a situation like that?
Well, I got into ghost hunting mostly out of curiosity, mostly to add kind of like a footnote to the oral stories I picked up. It's a way of testing the validity of these tales people have been telling. And I haven't spent a lot of money on equipment. Actually, I'd have to say my two most important pieces of equipment I take with me on my camera and my mag flashlight. What I'll do is I'll take the flashlight, turn it on, and then with the mag flashlight, you turn it off and on by twisting the cap. So I'll twist the cap so that it's barely off. I'll set it on the mantle or on a table, and I'll start asking the spirits questions, and I'll set the ground rules, and I'll say, if the answer is yes, turn the light on. And I've had conversations that way with spirits. Now, that's not to say that the spirit was actually responding to me. There might be electrical explanations that are beyond my understanding in this case, but it's startling to have that happen.
Well,
when
I bet it is.
Question, and it turns on. I would like to buy a thermal imager so that I could look at the heat signature of figures and see if there really is a spirit there. But I don't think it's necessary.
Do you think people are becoming more skeptical or less skeptical? I mean, do you think it's becoming more people are saying, yeah, I believe in this, yeah, or people are kind of turning their heads going, I don't believe in this?
I just heard a poll on NPR this week, which indicated that 50% of all Americans believe in ghosts. That's the highest number that I have heard in a long time. I think the number's increasing.
You think it's increasing?
Yes, I think it is increasing, and I think it's because people want to believe. They want to believe that there was something after death, and ghosts are proof of that for a lot of people, and that's why they're eager to believe in it. As opposed, of course, those people who have ghosts in their house might not be real happy about it, but But others who have not had that kind of encounter really want to believe. And I think that Americans are turning in that direction.
Fascinating. Okay, I will take a break, and then I want to ask you, at the top of the show, you talked about one thing that you said was a likely paranormal encounter that you had up in Louisville, and you said there was another one. I want to ask you about that. So we'll take a break, come back, continue our discussion right after this.